we've been tracking the semiconductor crisis right here on the India Development Debate for quite a few months now. Is the end finally close by? Are we seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? A Morgan Stanley note seems to suggest so. What's in that note? Let me first go across to Shrishti for more on that.
So the black cloud for the auto companies, that is the semiconductor shortage issue, seems to be vanishing now. And in the quarter two commentary, we saw many companies highlighting the same. But now Morgan Stanley has come up with a very interesting report where they say that the semiconductor shortage is now normalizing, and the Malaysian fabrication plants, the manpower over there has got back to 100% of the levels in the month of October. And going forward, they hope for further improvement in this shortage situation. Remember that the Malaysian fabrication plants were shut down because of the rising COVID cases in Malaysia, but now these production levels and the employees are getting back to the plants, and that is helping normalize the levels. Morgan Stanley says that the car production shouldn't suffer from the chip shortage anymore after the month of November this year, and it is now in the rear view mirror. And globally across, we are seeing that the car production is starting to recover. In India, it is the same scenario, and they believe that the car makers can now make a change in their inventory policy from just in time to just in case, and the auto semi demand should stay strong in the coming quarters, as we are seeing that the EVs require more of these chips, and that is something that is increasing in production number. And across the globe, we are seeing that the output for these semiconductor chips are increasing because of so many foundries being set up, which should also help the supply to normalize in the times ahead. So definitely a very positive news for all the auto companies. And today we can see that in the auto pack, especially the passenger vehicle companies are shining the most.
Vinkesh Gulati, President of FADA, Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations, is with us on the show this evening. I'm speaking with Ravi Bhatia, President and Director at JATO Dynamics India, and Kranti Sambhav, Editor and Lead, Auto Times Drive, is with us as well. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Vinkesh, let me begin with asking you whether you're seeing signs of this so-called relief that Morgan Stanley is alluding to. Are you hearing of shorter waiting periods, at least for new cars? Because that was the biggest problem during this festive season, wasn't it? The demand was there, but the supply just wasn't.
So Tamanna, thanks for having me. Frankly, even talks of supply chain going back on track puts a smile on our face. The dealerships, we have been struggling for so long, and the relationship between us and customers are at, I feel, in my lifetime, ever lowest, because we are not able to give them the commitment of delivery. We are clueless what is happening. There is a lot of demand and the vehicles are not there. So even Ravi ji tweeted something about Malaysia going back to 100%. That tweet is also one good thing. And like you said, Morgan Stanley. So I feel overall, it's been a long drawn battle. There was a semiconductor shortage, which gave us some 20-30% degrowth in production. But for the past 2-3 months, we are seeing production going down by more than 30, it's 40 also. So it's hurting the market. And at the time when the festive is there, and as dealers, we normally sell 40% of the sale in these two festive months. And we actually did 70% of our normal sales. So think about what loss we have done, and I'm clueless how will we recover. So I'm hopeful that the messages what we are coming on are true, and November, December max, the production is back on track, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that even the customers' demand continues, because that's also one very volatile situation. A customer can wait for 2 months, 3 months, but a person waiting for 6 months for a car, that's a difficult part. Forget about things like Mahindra Thar, which is a niche product for some customers, but for a normal person buying a car for family, he normally doesn't wait more than a month or two. So let's hope with the production, even the demand continues.
So just to get this clear, Mr. Gulati, as of now, the waiting periods still remain as they were before, stretching into maybe 2, 3, 4 months, depending on the model?
No. So pre-festive, the waiting period was starting 2 months to around a year. Post-festive, it's gone up to 4 months plus. Obviously, there are some products which are available, but as of today, I feel 90% of the models are not available off the rack. So there are very slow-moving products which are there. And so practically, if you go and book any vehicle at any dealership of any OEM at any dealer, starts with at least 2 months. So on an average, we can say that the average has gone from 2 months to 4 months now.
Wow, that's even worse. Maybe with a lag, we'll see some improvement. Ravi Bhatia, is that what you're expecting to happen? And just give us perspective, because the Morgan Stanley note talks about Malaysia. But in the larger scheme of things, do a majority of semiconductor or chips for the automobile industry come from Malaysia? Other markets like Taiwan, etc., are they also still on their way to mending the situation? And is the lag, where we were talking about a semiconductor crunch going on for up to 2 years as per Qualcomm, is that lag now beginning to come down substantially?
Yeah, so Tamanna, we have to see this in a slightly more detailed perspective. There are three things in the semiconductor manufacturing and supply process. So there is a foundry process, there is an assembly testing process, and there is a packaging process. One concept we talk in supply chain is the bottleneck. Malaysia was about 13% of global capacity in assembly testing and packaging. So even if you could produce it, you could not test it and you could not package it. Now and the bottleneck came into being because of the COVID, and the spread was quite significant. In October, what we saw was the Malaysian facilities were back to about 80% of their capacity. And what we are beginning to hear now is the capacities have gone to almost 100%. Now, that is a factory situation in Malaysia. Now, remember that these chips have to travel to manufacturing in India to the factories. The factories have to start using these chips. All forms of chips may not be available simultaneously. So the production, we will start seeing slight improvement as the months go along. What is making it worse, and Vinkesh talks about the dealer situation on inventory is pretty bad. We haven't seen such low level of inventories at the dealer. So remember, production has to come first, then dealer pipeline inventory filling up has to come second. Then and only then will we see the rise in demand. So I clearly see this to be at least a 2.5 month process. Now, what I also believe that OEMs took advantage of this situation in a good way. They were able to pass all their costs, and they were able to reduce the incentives pretty significantly. But I see now, with situation beginning to improve, the offers will be back in about 2 months. So people who wait will definitely benefit in terms of the value for money purchase.
Okay, so wait another 2 months if you have waited thus far. Kranti, what is the commentary coming in from OEMs? Most major companies seem to suggest that they too think that there is light at the end of the tunnel and their production cuts will reduce over time. Is there a broad consensus on that, especially in the Indian auto market?
Yeah, so as Mr. Bhatia also mentioned, it will take some time to reach India. And in that sense, in that scenario, what we are seeing across the board, they are still very skeptical about the availability of chips. So I think kind of waiting we have seen for most of the products, as Mr. Gulati also said, that all the products, most of the products are not available. So average, waiting period has increased, maybe has crossed 4 months, and some of the models, some of the variants which are high in demand, they are almost they come with 1 year of waiting period. So most of the manufacturers we are talking to, everyone is kind of wait and watch. They're following the wait and watch policy, and they're looking at the supply. When does it normalize? Because this is something which we have been talking about it. Every time we talk to them, we ask them the same question, that when do you think this is going to normalize. And most of the time, no one has very concrete, unlike the kind of questions or answers we used to get. When will this number of sales will normalize after pandemic or after lockdown? They still had some idea, some data, but in this case, they're still very cautious as far as forecast is concerned. So I guess it'll take few months to get over this waiting period game. And the only good thing about this waiting period is that many products which were not selling earlier, now customers are also going for those cars, those models, because they can't find their first choice.
Yeah. So maybe the slow-moving stuff is also moving. Ravi Bhatia, I want to come back to you on the longer picture. You're expecting waiting times to ease up in 2 to 3 months. Explain to me what has changed, because as I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about the semiconductor crisis, say even 6 to 8 weeks ago, there was a lag time of 2 years. People were saying, the commentary was that the semiconductor crisis across segments, I'm not just talking the auto sector, but auto was worst hit, will take time to ease. Because the demand as well of chips in various kinds of products has increased so much. So what has changed to reduce this now to 2 to 3 months, as you are mentioning?
See, there was a phase of crisis management which the automotive companies went through. Some of them we know launched variants which were slightly defeatured. Some of them learned, like Tesla is a big case study where they relied on their own integration system to continue the production in Q3. So their Q3 was very, very good. So we believe that with this easing of the bottleneck, the supply of the chips is coming back, and the real impact on the ground to the consumer and to the front end of the dealership will take 2.5 months to experience this comfort. But if I look at the forecast for 2022, people are beginning to talk about a growth number. We have seen 2 forecast numbers, and one of them is ours and one is the UBS. So we are talking about approximately about 10.6% growth next year, and UBS is talking about 15% growth next year. So this is what happens, visualize a water pipe where somebody had the foot on the pipe, and that's what Malaysia was. Now with that foot removed, it will take some time, but we believe that the growth is back on track and the clouds are now beginning to go away. Yes, it is true that customer and the front-end salesman at the dealership will have pain for another few months.
All right, but that pain is about to end. Vinkesh Gulati, is the interest still there? I think pretty much everyone who wants to buy a car right now knows there's a waiting period. Have you seen that dim the interest of people and footfalls also slowing down because of that? Or are people still coming in and making inquiries?
So practically, things are still hot as of now. We are getting a lot of inquiries today. But like I said, it's very difficult to continue waiting for a purchase. So that is what we are keeping our fingers crossed. Like as Mr. Bhatia said, that the production will come to normal in maybe a 2 months' time or 3 months' time. So it will be good for us. But one thing to consider, I'm not questioning the base of whatever is going on in the social media with semiconductor. But if you remember when the semiconductor problem started, all the manufacturers stripped down their model, launched the executive model, blah, blah, whatever they could do. Even the 700 just launched product. Mahindra is now coming up with a model which doesn't have a wireless charger and some other options. Why? Because semiconductor is an issue. And they are giving the customers the option to change their model if they want to. So as of today, we are talking of production where we have already done a lot of value engineering. So if, as per Ravi ji, things will be normal, means in 3 months, we'll be normal to value engineering positions, not to the actual position, where the car, what is needed by the customer is being made, and not a compromise is done where even instead of a touch screen, he is being provided a non-touch music system or something like this. So I'm happy that this is my I don't remember which number interview, but at least now positivity is coming back that the production is going back to normal. And I feel if even a month we get an upswing in production, the customers will continue to wait because it's now been long. If there is no positivity coming in production, slowly and steadily the interest from the dealer side, from the customer side will wane off, which will be not good for the auto industry as of now because we've just come out of COVID where we have seen a lot of challenges. And seeing this, I feel happy to hear that semiconductor issue will be behind us. I'm a bit cautious on agreeing to that, but I'm happy that the things have moved out on the positive side.
That's great. That's great. So I think customer interest may sustain because it's not as if there is any other option. And people who want to buy a car are not suddenly going to start using public transport. They will possibly continue with whatever options they have till the right car comes along. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us on this interesting issue today where we're looking at whether there's a reversal in the semiconductor story.